Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
And now chapter 11, The Symptoms of a Sadhu. Text 21. Titikshava karunika surada sarvadehinam ajata shatrava shanta sadhava sadhu bhushana. Translation. The symptoms of a sadhu are that he is tolerant, merciful, and friendly to all living entities. He has no enemies. He is peaceful. He abides by the scriptures, and all his characteristics are sublime. Purport. A sadhu, as described above, is a devotee of the Lord. His concern, therefore, is to enlighten people in devotional service. That is his mercy. He knows that without devotional service, human life is spoiled. A devotee travels all over the country, from door to door, preaching, "Be Krishna conscious, be a devotee of Lord Krishna. Don't spoil your life in simply fulfilling your animal propensities. Human life is meant for self-realization or Krishna consciousness." These are the preachings of a sadhu. He is not satisfied with his own liberation. He always thinks about others. He is the most compassionate personality toward all fallen souls. One of his qualifications, therefore, is karunika, great mercy to the fallen souls. While engaged in preaching work, he has to meet with so many opposing elements, and therefore the sadhu has to be very tolerant. Someone may ill-treat him because the conditioned souls are not prepared to receive the transcendental knowledge of devotional service. They don't like it. That is their disease. The sadhu has the thankless task of impressing upon them the importance of devotional service. Sometimes devotees are personally attacked with violence. Lord Jesus Christ was crucified. Haridas Thakur was caned in 22 marketplaces, and Lord Chaitanya's principal assistant, Nityananda, was violently attacked by Jagai and Madhai. But still they were tolerant, because their mission was to deliver fallen souls. A sadhu is merciful because he is the well-wisher of all living entities. He is not only a well-wisher of human society, but a well-wisher of animal society as well. The word Sarva Dehinam refers to all living entities who have accepted material bodies. Not only does the human being have a material body, but other living entities as well. The devotee of the Lord is merciful to everyone, cats, dogs, trees, etc. He treats all living entities in such a way that they can ultimately get salvation from this material entanglement. Shivananda Sen, one of the disciples of Lord Chaitanya, gave liberation to a dog by treating the dog transcendentally. There are many instances where a dog got salvation by association with a sadhu, because a sadhu engages in the highest philanthropic activities for the benediction of all living entities. Yet although a sadhu is not inimical toward anyone, the world is so ungrateful that even a sadhu has many enemies. What is the difference between an enemy and a friend? It is a difference in behavior. A sadhu behaves with all conditioned souls for their ultimate relief from material entanglement. Therefore, no one can be more friendly than a sadhu in relieving a conditioned soul. A sadhu is calm, and he quietly and peacefully follows the principles of Scripture. A sadhu is also one who follows the principles of Scripture and at the same time is a devotee of the Lord. One who actually follows the principles of Scripture must be a devotee of God, because all the Shastras instruct us to obey the orders of the personality of Godhead. A sadhu, therefore, is a follower of the scriptural injunctions and a devotee of the Lord. All good characteristics are prominent in a devotee, and he develops all the good qualities of the demigods, whereas a non-devotee, even though academically qualified, has no good qualifications or good characteristics according to the standard of transcendental realization. There are 8,400,000 life forms according to the Padma Purana, and the Atma is the same in all of them. The sadhu can understand this, as Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, verse 18 indicates. Vidya Vinaya Sampane, Brahmane Gavi Hastini, Shuni Chaiva Shvapake Cha, Pandita Samadarshana, which means, quote, the humble sage, by virtue of true knowledge, sees with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahmin, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog-eater or outcast, unquote. It is not that a Brahmin is the same as a dog, but that the Brahmin is a spirit soul and the dog is also a spirit soul. We are conditioned according to our different bodies, which are given by superior forces. Yamaraj offers the living entity a body according to his karma. Karmana daiva netrena. We have already discussed the point that bodies are awarded according to one's qualifications. If we acquire the qualities of a Brahmin and work as a Brahmin, we become a Brahmin. If we act as a dog, and do the work of a dog, we become a dog. Nor should one think that simply because one is born as a Brahmin, one is automatically a Brahmin. There are characteristics mentioned in Bhagavad Gita by which one can tell to which caste one belongs. Sridhar Swami has also noted that birth is not everything. One has to acquire the qualities. Whatever body we may have, our position is temporary. We cannot remain in any position indefinitely. We may think that at present we are Americans and are very happy, and that's all right. We may chalk out our plans for continued happiness, but nature will not allow us to stay indefinitely. As soon as nature calls, we die and give up our post. Then we have to take the post of a dog, a cat, a demigod, a human being, or whatever. We are now given a most exalted life form, that of a human being, but if we do not act accordingly, we have to take a lower body. This is karmana daiva netrena. We should therefore be very careful in this human form that our aim is to become devotees of Lord Krishna. That is the path of liberation. Previously, great personalities in India used to go to the forest in order to meditate to stop the repetition of birth and death. That is the highest occupation for man, and actually every man is meant for that. Unless we conquer repeated birth and death, we simply waste our lives like animals, eating, sleeping, defending, and mating. People in this age especially cannot distinguish between animal life and human life. They think the difference is that animals sleep in the street and human beings sleep in nice apartments. However, the Shastras do not define civilization in this way. Whether one sleeps in the street or in an apartment, the activity is the same. A dog may eat out of a garbage can, and a human being may eat on a golden plate. But this does not mean that they are engaged in different activities. In either case, both the dog and the man are taking food into their bodies. A dog may have sex in the street, and a human being may have sex in a very nice bed in a secluded place, but that does not change the activity. People are thinking that advancement of civilization means improving eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, but actually these activities have nothing to do with civilization. They simply tighten our bondage to material life. Human life is meant for yajna, sacrifice for the satisfaction of the Supreme Person. We may perfect our activities, but our success lies in satisfying Krishna by our talents. Presently, we may be attached to material activity, but we should transfer that attachment to a sadhu. Then our lives will be successful. Presently, we are attached to money, women, nice houses, country, society, friends, family, and so forth. This attachment is called Arjanam Pashu. The word Pashu means rope. When we are bound with a rope, we are helpless, and now we are bound by the gunas, or the three modes of material nature. The word guna also means rope. We cannot free ourselves, for we are conditioned. We cannot move freely without the sanction of the supreme authority. It is generally said that not a blade of grass moves without God's sanction. Similarly, we cannot do anything without the supervision of a superior authority. It is not that God has to take personal supervision of this. Parasya Shaktir Vividaiva Shruyate Natasya Karyam Karanam Cha Vidyate. In the Shvetashvatara Upanishad, chapter 6, verse 8, it is thus stated that the Supreme Lord does not have to act personally. He has many agents to perform everything for him. We are so controlled that we are not even free to blink our eyes. We may be moving our hands very freely, but at any moment they can be immediately paralyzed. Presently I am claiming, this is my hand. But what is this? The hand could be paralyzed immediately. This is conditioned life. And how can we improve it? Our business is to become liberated from all this conditioning. How is this possible? Saeva sadhushu krito moksha dvaram apavritam. From the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 25, Verse 20. We have to turn our attachment from material things to a sadhu. Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastre Kaya. This is the advice of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All Shastras advise us to associate with a sadhu. Even Chanakya Pandit, the great politician, recommended Tyaja Durjana Samsargam Bhaja Sadhu Samagamam. One Vaishnava householder asked Chaitanya Mahaprabhu what the duty of a householder is, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately replied, Asat Sangha Tyaga E Vaishnava Achara. Don't associate with non-devotees, but search out a sadhu. From the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 22, verse 87. At the present moment, it is very difficult to avoid the company of asadhus, those who are not sadhus. It is very difficult to find a sadhu for association. We have therefore started this Krishna consciousness movement to create an association of sadhus so that people may take advantage and become liberated. There is no other purpose for this society. Krishna states in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, verse 47, that the first-class sadhu is one who is always thinking of him. This process is not very difficult. We should always think of Krishna, but how is this possible? We think of our business, our dog, our family, our lovable object, and so many other things. We have to think of something. Without thinking, we cannot remain. We simply have to divert our thoughts to Krishna. It is the sadhu's business to teach this, and one can learn this in the association of a sadhu. Actually, a sadhu will not teach anything else. Ado Shraddha Tata Sadhu Sangha, from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.4.15. This is the way to make spiritual advancement. One has to associate with a sadhu. Often the sadhu's task is a thankless one, but he has to be tolerant. Despite all the trouble a sadhu may encounter, he is very merciful upon fallen conditioned souls. He sees that people are suffering due to a lack of Krishna consciousness, and because he is always thinking of the welfare of others, he is surit. Other people are always envious, but a sadhu is always thinking how to save others from the clutches of Maya. A sadhu is kind not only to human beings, but to cats, dogs, trees, plants, and insects. He will hesitate even to kill one mosquito. He does not simply think, I shall just take care of my brother. He looks on all living beings as his brothers because Krishna says that he is the father of all living entities. Because a sadhu lives in this way, he does not create enemies. If there are enemies, they become enemies out of their own character, not out of any provocation on the part of a sadhu. A sadhu simply teaches, my dear human being, my dear friend, just surrender to Krishna. Enemies arise due to man's envious nature. Chanakya Pandit says that there are two envious animals, serpents and men. Although you may be faultless, either may kill you. Of the two, Chanakya Pandit says that the envious man is more dangerous because a serpent can be subdued by chanting a mantra or by some herbs, but an envious man cannot be so subdued. In Kali Yuga, practically everyone is envious, but we have to tolerate this. Envious people create many impediments to the Krishna consciousness movement, but we have to tolerate them. There is no alternative. One must be peaceful and depend on Krishna in all circumstances. These are the ornaments of a sadhu. We should find a sadhu and associate with him. Then our path of liberation will be open. In the next verse, Lord Kapila further explains the activities of a sadhu. Text 22. Mayananyena bhavena bhaktam kurvanti ye dridam matkrite tyakta karmanas tyakta svajana bandhava. Translation. Such a sadhu engages in staunch devotional service to the Lord without deviation. For the sake of the Lord, he renounces all other connections, such as family relationships and friendly acquaintances within the world. Purport. A person in the renounced order of life, a sannyasi, is also called a sadhu because he renounces everything: his home, his comfort, his friends, his relatives, and his duties to friends and to family. He renounces everything for the sake of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A sannyasi is generally in the renounced order of life, but his renunciation will be successful only when his energy is employed in the service of the Lord with great austerity. It is said here, therefore, Bhaktam kurvanti ye dridham. A person who seriously engages in the service of the Lord and is in the renounced order of life is a sadhu. A sadhu is one who has given up all responsibility to society, family, and worldly humanitarianism simply for the service of the Lord. As soon as he takes his birth in the world, a person has many responsibilities and obligations to the public, demigods, great sages, general living beings, parents, forefathers, and many others. When he gives up all these obligations for the service of the Supreme Lord, he is not punished for his renunciation. But if for sense gratification a person renounces these obligations, he is punished by the law of nature. Krishna and all the Shastras say that our only obligation is to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If we take to his service, we are no longer obliged to anyone. We are free. How is this possible? By Almighty God's power. A man may be condemned to death, but if a president or a king excuses him, he is saved. Krishna's final instruction in Bhagavad Gita is to surrender everything to him. We can sacrifice our life, wealth, and intelligence, and this is called yajna. Everyone has some intelligence, and everyone uses his intelligence in one way or another. Generally, people use their intelligence in trying to gratify their senses, but even an ant can do this. We should try to gratify not our senses, but Krishna's senses. Then we become perfect. We have to learn this purificatory process from a sadhu. Inasmuch as we try to gratify our senses, we become attached to the material world. We may render service to the sadhu or to Krishna. The sadhu is the representative of Krishna. He will never say, "Serve me," but will say, "Serve Krishna." Therefore, we have to approach Krishna through the sadhu. This is confirmed by the Vaishnava Acharya Narottam Das Thakur. Chadiya Vaishnava Seva Nisthara Payeche Keba. We cannot directly approach Krishna. We have to go through the transparent via media, Krishna's representative. Those who are after material concessions go to different demigods. They take something from Shiva, Durga, Kali, Ganesha, Surya, and whomever. However, it was the goddess Parvati who asked Lord Shiva in the Padma Purana, "What is the best type of worship?" Lord Shiva advised, "Aradhananam sarvesham Vishnur Aradhanam Param," which means, quote, "My dear Parvati, of all kinds of worship, worship of Lord Vishnu is the best." Unquote. Then he added, "Tasmat parataram devi tadiyanam samarchanam," which means, quote, "And even better than the worship of Lord Vishnu is the worship of a Vaishnav, a devotee," unquote. Spiritual life begins with the association of a devotee, a sadhu. One cannot progress an inch without the mercy of a sadhu. Prahlad Maharaj has also indicated this. Naishammatis tavadu rukramangrim Sprishatyanartha pagamo yadartha Mahiyasam padarajo bishekam Nishkinchananam navrinita yavat, which means, quote, "Unless they smear upon their bodies the dust of the lotus feet of a Vaishnav completely freed from material contamination, persons very much inclined toward materialistic life cannot be attached to the lotus feet of the Lord, who is glorified for his uncommon activities. Only by becoming Krishna conscious and taking shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord, in this way can one be freed from material contamination." Unquote. From the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 5, Verse 32. Hiranyakashipu asked Prahlad Maharaj, "My dear son Prahlad, how have you become so advanced in Krishna consciousness?" Although Hiranyakashipu was a demon, he was nonetheless inquisitive. Prahlad Maharaj replied, "My dear father, O best of the Asuras, one can receive Krishna consciousness only from the instructions of a guru. One cannot attain it simply by speculating. Ordinary men do not know that their ultimate destination is to return to Vishnu. In the material world, people are always hoping for something. They hope against hope, yet their hopes will never be fulfilled. People are trying to become happy by adjusting the external energy, but they do not know that happiness cannot be achieved without approaching God. People are thinking, 'I must first of all see to my own interest.' That's all right, but what is that interest? That they do not know. People are thinking that by adjusting the material energy, they will be happy, and everyone is trying this individually, collectively, or nationally. In any case, it is not possible. People will ultimately be frustrated. Why attempt a process that will ultimately meet with frustration? It is therefore said, Adanta Gobhir Vishatam Tamisram Puna Punash Charvita Charvananam. From the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 5, Verse 30. People are being baffled in so many ways because they cannot control their senses. Their only possibility of rescue is Krishna. Therefore, in this verse it is said, Mayananyena bhavena bhaktim kurvanti ye dridam. Prahlad Maharaj simply thought of Krishna. Because of this, he had to undergo a great deal of trouble given by his father. Material nature will not give us freedom very easily. If we become strong enough to try to capture the lotus feet of Krishna, Maya will try to keep us under her clutches. However, if one gives up everything for Krishna's sake, Maya can have no effect. The most excellent example of this is the gopis. They gave up everything, family, prestige, and honor, just to follow Krishna. That is the highest perfection, but that is not possible for ordinary living entities. We should, however, follow the Goswamis in their determination to worship Krishna. Sanatan Goswami was an important minister in the government of Hussain Shah. but he gave up everything to follow Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He adopted the life of a mendicant and lived under a different tree every night. One may ask, after giving up material enjoyment, how can one live? The Goswamis lived by dipping into the ocean of the transcendental loving affairs between Krishna and the gopis. Since that was their asset, they could live very peacefully. We cannot simply give up everything. We will become mad if we try to give up everything without having staunch faith in Krishna. Yet if we find Krishna's association, we can easily give up our opulent positions, our family, business, and everything. However, that requires sadhu sangha, association with a sadhu, a devotee. When we associate with a devotee, the day will eventually come when we can give up everything and become liberated persons, fit to return home back to Godhead. Presently, we are attached to material enjoyment, and Krishna even gives us a chance to gratify our senses. He lets us enjoy ourselves to the fullest extent because we have come to this material world to enjoy sense gratification. However, this is called Maya, illusion. It is not really enjoyment, but simply struggle. When one realizes that he is simply struggling life after life, that there is actually no real enjoyment in the material world, one becomes a devotee of Krishna. That realization requires knowledge, and that knowledge can be acquired by association with a sadhu, a devotee. Freedom from this struggle with material existence is further explained by Lord Kapila in the next verse. Text 23. Madashraya katha mrishta shrinvanti kathayanti cha tapanti vivedastapa naitan madgata chetasa. Translation. Engage constantly in chanting and hearing about me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The sadhus do not suffer from material miseries because they are always filled with thoughts of my pastimes and activities. Purport. There are multifarious miseries in material existence, those pertaining to the body and the mind, those imposed by other living entities, and those imposed by natural disturbances. But a sadhu is not disturbed by such miserable conditions because his mind is always filled with Krishna consciousness, and thus he does not like to talk about anything but the activities of the Lord. Maharaj Ambarish did not speak of anything but the pastimes of the Lord. Vachamsi Vaikunta Gunanuvarnane. He engaged his words only in glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ordinary conditioned souls, being forgetful of the activities of the Lord, are always full of anxieties and material tribulations. On the other hand, since the devotees always engage in the topics of the Lord, they are forgetful of the miseries of material existence. Thus they differ from other living entities who are simply suffering. There is no one in the world materially engaged who can boldly say, "I am not suffering." I challenge anyone to say this. Everyone in the material world is suffering in some way or another. If not, why are so many drugs being advertised? On the television, they are always advertising tranquilizers and painkillers. And in America and in other Western countries, they are so advanced that there are dozens of tablets for various pains. Therefore, there must be some suffering. Actually, anyone who has a material body has to accept suffering. There are three types of suffering in the material world: Adhyatmika, Adhibodhika, and Adhidaivika. Adhyatmika refers to the body and mind. Today I have a headache or some pain in my back, or my mind is not very quiet. These are sufferings called Adhyatmika. There are other forms of suffering called Adhibodhika, which are sufferings imposed by other living entities. Apart from this, there are sufferings called Adhidaivika, over which we have no control whatsoever. These are caused by the demigods or acts of nature, and include famine, pestilence, flood, excessive heat or excessive cold, earthquakes, fire, and so on. Nonetheless, we are thinking that we are very happy within this material world, although in addition to these threefold miseries, there is also birth, old age, disease, and death. So where is our happiness? Because we are under the spell of Maya, we are thinking that our position is very secure. We are thinking, let us enjoy life. But what kind of enjoyment is this? Obviously, we have to tolerate suffering. One of the characteristics of a sadhu is tolerance. Everyone is tolerant to a degree, but a sadhu's tolerance and an ordinary man's tolerance are different. This is because a sadhu knows that he is not the body. According to a Bengali Vaishnav song, Deha smriti nahi yara samsara bandhana kaha tara. If we properly understand that we are not the body, although we may suffer, we will not feel the suffering as acutely. For instance, if one thinks, this is my car, and is very attached to it, he suffers more when it is wrecked than a person who thinks it can be repaired, or I can leave it. It is a question of mental absorption. Because he is more like an animal, a materialist suffers more. The devotee, on the other hand, takes Krishna's advice in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 14, Matra sparshas tu konteya, chitoshna sukha dukkada, agama payano nityas, tamstatiksha svabharata, which means, quote, O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress, and their disappearance in due course, are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O scion of Bharat, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. Unquote. In summer we suffer, and in winter we suffer. In the summer, fire brings suffering, and in the winter the same fire is pleasing. Similarly, in the winter, water is suffering, but in the summer it is pleasing. The water and the fire are the same, but sometimes they are pleasing, sometimes they are not. This is due to the touch of the skin. We all have some skin disease, which is the body, and therefore we are suffering. Because we have become such rascals, we are thinking, I am this body. According to the Ayurvedic system, the body is composed of three material elements: Kapha, Pitta, Vayu. The more we are in the bodily conception, the more we suffer. Presently, so many isms are being developed according to the bodily conception: nationalism, communism, socialism, communalism, and so on. In Calcutta, during the 1947 Hindu-Muslim riots, There was more suffering because everyone was thinking, I am a Hindu or I am a Muslim. But if one is advanced in Krishna consciousness, he will not fight according to such conceptions. A Krishna-conscious person knows that he is neither Hindu nor Muslim, but the eternal servant of Krishna. Because people are being educated to become more body-conscious, their sufferings are increasing. If we reduce the bodily conception, suffering will also be reduced. Those who are Krishna-conscious, who are always thinking of Krishna within their minds and within their hearts, are not suffering as much because they know that whatever they might suffer is due to Krishna's desire. Therefore they welcome suffering. For instance, when Krishna was leaving, Queen Kunti said, quote, "My dear Krishna, when we were in a dangerous situation, you were always present as our friend and advisor. Now we are well situated with our kingdom, and now you are leaving for Dwarka. This is not good. It is better that we again suffer so that we can always remember you." Unquote. Thus, the devotee sometimes welcomes suffering as an opportunity to remember Krishna constantly. When a devotee suffers, he thinks, "This is due to my past misdeeds. Actually, I should be suffering a great deal, but due to Krishna's grace, I am suffering just a little. After all, suffering and enjoyment are in the mind." In this way, a devotee is not greatly affected by suffering, and this is the difference between a devotee and a non-devotee. Prahlad Maharaj, a 5-year-old boy, had to undergo a great deal of suffering at the hands of his father, who was torturing him for being a devotee. The boy was trampled by elephants, thrown from a mountain, placed in burning oil, and thrown into a snake pit, yet he was silent during this whole ordeal. Similarly, Haridas Thakur, a Mohammedan by birth, was a very great devotee and was always chanting Hare Krishna. That was his only fault. However, the Muslim Qazi called him forth and said, "You are a Mohammedan, born in a great Mohammedan family. Yet you are chanting this Hindu Hare Krishna mantra. What is this?" Haridas Thakur mildly replied, "My dear sir, there are many Hindus who have become Mohammedans. Suppose I have become a Hindu. What is wrong with this?" The Qazi became very angry and ordered Haridas Thakur to be whipped in 22 bazaars. This essentially meant that he was to be beaten to death. But because he was such a great devotee, he did not actually feel the pain. Although a devotee may sometimes have to suffer, he tolerates the suffering. At the same time, he is very kind to conditioned souls and tries to elevate them to Krishna consciousness. This is one of the primary features of a devotee's life. People are always putting a sadhu into difficulties, but he does not give up his job, which is to spread Krishna consciousness so that others may become happy. It was Prahlad Maharaj who said, "My Lord, I am not suffering, for I know the art of being happy. Simply by hearing about you and chanting about you, I am happy." This is the business of a devotee, hearing and chanting about the Lord. This is Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam. Now this Shravanam Kirtanam is taking place all over the world through the Krishna consciousness movement. Even in ordinary life, it is possible for the mind to be absorbed in such a way that even a surgical operation may not disturb a man. Years ago, when Stalin had to undergo a surgical operation, he refused the use of chloroform. If this is possible even in an ordinary materialistic life, what to speak of spiritual life? One's mind should always be absorbed in Krishna consciousness, in thinking of Krishna. It is Krishna's injunction, always think of me. The European and American youths in the Krishna consciousness movement have been accustomed to many bad habits since birth, but now they have given these up. Many people think that it is impossible to live without illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating, and gambling. One famous marquis told one of my godbrothers, "Please make me a Brahmin." My godbrother said, "Yes, it is not a very difficult thing. Simply give up these bad habits, intoxication, illicit sex, meat eating, and gambling. Then you can become a Brahmin." The Marquis then said, "Impossible! This is our life." Actually, we have seen that in Western countries, older men cannot give up these habits, and because of this, they are suffering. Yet many young boys and girls have given them up, and there is no suffering. This is due to Krishna consciousness. This process is open to everyone. Everyone has heard of the Bhagavad Gita. We can attain perfection simply by following the instructions given in this book. It is not necessary to abandon our responsibilities. Maharaj Ambarish was a great emperor administering to his kingdom, yet at the same time he spoke only of Krishna. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu requested that his devotees only talk about Krishna. If we simply talk about Krishna and hear about him, the stage will come when we will no longer suffer. This is called Anandamayo Vyasat in the Vedanta Sutra. The living entity and Krishna are both Anandamaya, transcendentally blissful. On that platform, there is no possibility of material suffering. It is not a question of displaying some magical feats. The greatest magic is freedom from suffering, and this is the freedom of a devotee. When we feel pleasure from hearing about Krishna and talking about him, we should know that we are making progress on the path of perfection. At that time, material suffering will not be felt at all. This is the practical effect of rendering devotional service, which Lord Kapila is pointing out to his mother. Text 24. Ta ete sadava sadavi sarva sangha vivarjita sangaste shivatate pratya sangha dosha harahite. Translation. O my mother, O virtuous lady, these are the qualities of great devotees who are free from all attachment. You must seek attachment to such holy men, for this counteracts the pernicious effects of material attachment. Purport. Kapila Muni herein advises his mother, Devahuti, that if she wants to be free from material attachment, she should increase her attachment for the sadhus, or devotees who are completely freed from all material attachment. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, verse 5, it is stated, Nirmana moha jita sangha dosha. This refers to one who is completely freed from the puffed-up condition of material possessiveness. A person may be materially very rich or respectable, but if he at all wants to transfer himself to the spiritual kingdom, back home, back to Godhead, he has to be freed from material possessiveness, because that is a false position. The word moha used here means the false understanding that one is rich or poor. In this material world, the conception that one is very rich or very poor, or any such consciousness in connection with material existence, is false, because this body itself is temporary. A pure soul who is prepared to be freed from this material entanglement must first be free from the association of the three modes of nature. Our consciousness at the present moment is polluted because of association with the three modes of nature. Therefore, in Bhagavad Gita, the same principle is stated. It is advised, Jita Sangha Dosha. One should be freed from the contaminated association of the three modes. Here also, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, this is confirmed. A pure devotee who is preparing to transfer himself to the spiritual kingdom is also freed from the association of the three modes. We have to seek the association of such devotees. For this reason we have begun the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. There are many mercantile and scientific associations in human society, established to develop a particular type of education or consciousness, but there is no association which helps one to get free from all material association. If anyone wishes to become free from this material contamination, he has to seek the association of devotees, wherein Krishna consciousness is exclusively cultured. Because a devotee is freed from all contaminated material association, he is not affected by the miseries of material existence, even though he appears to be in the material world. How is it possible? A cat carries her kittens in her mouth, and when she kills a rat, she also carries the booty in her mouth. Thus both are carried in the mouth of the cat, but they are in different conditions. The kitten feels comfort in the mouth of the mother, whereas when the rat is carried in the mouth of the cat, the rat feels the blows of death. Similarly, those who are sadhus or devotees engaged in the transcendental service of the Lord do not feel the contamination of material miseries, whereas those who are not devotees in Krishna consciousness actually feel the miseries of material existence. One should therefore give up the association of materialistic persons and seek the association of those engaged in Krishna consciousness. By such association, one will be benefited by spiritual advancement. By their words and instructions, one will be able to cut off his attachment to material existence. In this Kali Yuga, the present age, the dangerous modes of Rajoguna and Tamoguna, passion and ignorance, are especially prominent. Practically everyone in this age is contaminated by lusty desire, greed, and ignorance. It is said in the Shastras that in this age of Kali, Sattvaguna, the mode of goodness, is practically non-existent. The 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita nicely explains how one can free oneself of contamination by the material modes. Now Kapila Dev advises, Mother, if you want to get rid of the contamination of material nature, you should associate with a sadhu. Attachment to the material modes brings about our bondage. If we want to be free from this bondage, we have to transfer our attachment to a sadhu. Actually, everyone is attached to something. No one can say that he is free from attachment. The Mayavad and Buddhist philosophies tell us to become detached, but this in itself is not possible. A child is attached to playing in so many ways, but gradually his attachments should be transferred to reading and going to school to acquire an education. It is a question not of stopping attachment, but of transferring it. If one simply tries to put an end to attachment, he will become mad. Something must be given in the place of attachment. For instance, we tell our disciples to stop eating meat, but how is this meat eating stopped? In the place of meat, we are supplying kachoris, rasagula, and many other palatable things. In this way, detachment is possible. First of all, nullify the inferior attachment, and then supply a better attachment. There is no question of forcing a living entity. This must be done gradually. A child may have some attachment, but by the system of replacing attachment, his attachment is overturned. Similarly, our consciousness has somehow or other become contaminated. Now it has to be purified. Then Krishna consciousness will automatically arise and awaken. Krishna consciousness is our original consciousness, but somehow or other it has become covered by material attachment. The question is how to give up material attachment and become attached to Krishna. The process is sadhu sangha, association with a sadhu. We have many attachments in this material world, but we cannot make these attachments void. We simply have to purify them. Some say that if the eye is diseased, it should be plucked out, but this is not treatment. Treatment is removing the disease. Somehow or other there is a cataract, and if the cataract is removed, one's eyesight will be revived. We have many desires, but we have to divert these desires to Krishna's service. For instance, we may be very attached to making money. Therefore, Krishna says, yes, go ahead and conduct your business. There is no harm. Simply give me the results. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verse 27, Yat karoshi yad ashnasi, yaj johoshi dadasi yat, yat tapasyasi konteya, yat kurushva mad arpanam. Which means, quote, O son of Kunti, all that you do, all that you eat, all that you offer and give away, as well as all austerities that you may perform, should be done as an offering unto me. Unquote. This is the beginning of Bhakti Yoga. If we conduct business and earn money, we should spend it for Krishna. This is a form of bhakti. Another vivid example is Arjuna, who was a fighter. By fighting, he became a devotee. He did not become a devotee by chanting Hare Krishna, but by fighting in the battle of Kurukshetra. Krishna advised him to fight, but because Arjuna was a Vaishnav, in the beginning he was unwilling. A Vaishnav does not like to kill anything, but if Krishna orders him, he must fight. He does not fight out of his own will, because a Vaishnav's natural instinct is not to do harm to anyone. However, when a Vaishnav knows that Krishna wants a particular thing done, he does not care for his own considerations. In any case, everyone has some particular type of duty, an occupation. If we perform our occupation in the worship of Krishna, our life will be perfect. This is also the instruction given in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, verse 13. Atha pumbir dvija shreshta, varnashrama vibhagasha, spanushtitasya dharmasya, samsiddhya haritoshanam. Which means, quote, O best of the twice-born, it is therefore concluded that the highest perfection one can achieve by discharging the duties prescribed for one's own occupation according to caste divisions and orders of life is to please the personality of Godhead. Unquote. Formerly, the Varnashram Dharma was prominent, and everyone had a particular duty according to his position in society. Now the occupational duties have expanded, but it doesn't matter whether one is an engineer, a doctor, or whatever. Simply try to serve Krishna by the results of work. That is bhakti. It is not the philosophy of this Krishna consciousness movement to disengage people from their activities. One should engage in his occupation, but one should never forget Krishna. Krishna advises us to always become Krishna conscious, and we should always think that we are acting for Krishna. Of course, we should work by the order of Krishna or his representative, not whimsically. If we perform some nonsensical action and think, I am doing this for Krishna, that will not be accepted. The work must be verified by Krishna's acceptance or by the acceptance of Krishna's representative. Arjuna did not fight without Krishna's order. Therefore, we must receive our orders also. We may say, I cannot find Krishna. How can I follow his order? It is the role of the sadhu to impart Krishna's orders. Since Krishna's representative is the sadhu, Kapila Dev advises his mother to associate with sadhus. We have described the symptoms of a sadhu, and we have stated that a sadhu should be accepted by his characteristics. It is not that we accept anyone who comes along and says, I am a sadhu. The characteristics of a sadhu have to be present. Similarly, it is not that anyone is accepted who comes along and says, I am an incarnation of God. There are characteristics of God given in the Shastras. Sadhu Sangha, association with the sadhu, is very essential in Krishna consciousness. People are suffering due to contamination by tamoguna and rajoguna. The sadhu teaches one how to remain purely in sattva guna by truthfulness, cleanliness, mind control, sense control, simplicity, tolerance, and full faith and knowledge. These are some of the characteristics of sattva guna. Instead of thinking, unless I have a drink, I will go mad, one should think, unless I associate with a sadhu, I will go mad. When we can think in this way, we will become liberated. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has stated that he wants every village in the entire world to be a center for Krishna consciousness so that people can take advantage of sadhus and in turn become sadhus. This is the mission of this Krishna consciousness movement. We simply have to voluntarily undergo some penance in the beginning. It may be a little painful in the beginning to refrain from illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating, and gambling, but one has to be tolerant. To be cured of a disease, we may have to agree to undergo some surgical operation. Although the operation may be very painful, we have to tolerate it. This is called titikshava. At the same time, we have to be karunika. That is, we have to take compassion upon fallen souls by going from town to enlighten others in Krishna consciousness. This is a sadhu's duty. Those who are preachers are superior to those who go to the Himalayas to meditate. It is good to go to the Himalayas to meditate for one's personal benefit, but those who undergo many difficulties in order to preach are superior. They are actually fighting for Krishna's sake, and they are certainly more compassionate. Those sadhus who leave Vrindavan to go fight in the world to spread Krishna consciousness are superior sadhus. This is the opinion of Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, verses 68 through 69. Ya idam paramam guyam madbhaktesh vavidasyati bhaktim mayi param kritva mam evaish yatyasam shaya nacha tasman manushyeshu kaschin me priya kritama bhavita nacha me tasmad anya priyataro bhuvi, which means, quote, for one who explains the supreme secret to the devotees, devotional service is guaranteed, and at the end he will come back to me. There is no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear. Unquote. If we want to be quickly recognized by Krishna, we should become preachers. This is also the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It is not that one should remain in India. Rather, one should travel all over the world to preach Krishna consciousness. The sadhu is Surat. He is the well-wisher of everyone. This does not mean that he is a well-wisher for an Indian nationalist or whatever. No, he is a well-wisher even of cats and dogs. A devotee even wishes to benefit cats and dogs by giving them prasad. Once, when devotees from Bengal were going to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, a dog began to follow them, and the leader of the party, Shivananda Sen, was giving prasad to the dog. When they had to cross a river, the boatman would not take the dog, but Shivananda Sen paid him more money and said, "Please take this dog. He is a Vaishnav, for he has joined our company. How can we leave him behind?" Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself actually threw some of his food to the dog, and in this way the dog attained Vaikuntha. Not only is a sadhu everyone's well-wisher, but he is not an enemy of anyone. He is also shanta, peaceful. These are the preliminary characteristics of a sadhu. He is also attached to no one but Krishna. Mayananyena bhavena. These are the external and internal symptoms of a devotee. A devotee also respects the demigods because he knows their position in relation to Krishna. In Brahma Samhita, chapter 5, verse 44, the goddess Durga is worshipped as the external energy or potency of Krishna. Shrishti Stiti Pralaya Sadhana Shaktir Eka Chayeva Yasya Bhuvanani Bibarti Durga Ichanu Rupam Api Yasya Chacheshtate Sa Govindamadi Purusham Tam Aham Bhajami, which means, quote, the external potency, Maya, who is of the nature of the shadow of the Chit, spiritual potency, is worshipped by all people as Durga, the creating, preserving, and destroying agency of this mundane world. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, in accordance with whose will Durga conducts herself. Unquote. The goddess Durga is so powerful that she can create, maintain, and annihilate. However, she cannot act independent of Krishna. She is like a shadow of Krishna. A sadhu knows that Prakriti, nature, is working under Krishna's direction. Similarly, a policeman knows that he is not working independently but under government orders. This knowledge is required in order that the policeman, who has some power, will not think that he has become God. No, God is not so cheap. God has multi-energies, and one of these energies is Durga. It is not that she is all and all, for there are many millions of Durgas, just as there are many millions of Shivas and millions of universes. Although there are millions of demigods, God is one. It is not that there are a million gods. Of course, God can expand in millions of forms, but that is different. A devotee offers respects to the demigods as the assistants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not as the supreme power. One who does not know God as He is considers the demigods to be supreme. Such people are less intelligent. A devotee offers respects to the demigods, but he knows that the Supreme Lord is Krishna. Krishnastu Bhagavan Svayam. Actually, a sadhu, a Vaishnav, offers respects to everyone, and he is ready to give up relatives and everything else for Krishna's sake. A sadhu simply takes pleasure in hearing about Krishna and talking about him. There are many pastimes enacted by Krishna. He fights and kills demons, and he performs his pastimes with the gopis. He plays as a cowherd boy in Vrindavan and as king of Dwarka. There are many books about Krishna, Krishna Katha, and this Krishna consciousness movement has already published many of them. Apart from Bhagavad Gita, which is spoken by Krishna, we can read these other books. In this way, one can learn the art of becoming a sadhu. Simply by hearing about Krishna and speaking about him, we will be immediately relieved from the suffering of this material condition. As stated in this verse, Ta ete sadava sadvi sarva sangha vivarjita. These symptoms are visible when one no longer has material attachment. A sadhu does not think himself Hindu, Muslim, Christian, American, Indian, or whatever. A sadhu simply thinks, I am the servant of Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said, I am not a Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Brahmachari, or whatever. I am simply the servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna. One need only learn this process in order to render the best service to humanity.